How often has it felt risky to show up as your true self? For me, that used to be my constant state of being because I was always worried about when the tears might come and unconsciously think, what if people don't understand me? Or worse, reject me? For many of us, emotions show up in tears. And while that can feel vulnerable or even embarrassing, what if our tears aren't a weakness at all, but proof of our authenticity? In this episode, I'm sharing how to feel safe showing up as your full self, even when the tears come, and what it means to embrace all of who you are. Hey lady, welcome to the Highly Sensitive Woman podcast. Do you struggle with self-doubt, setting boundaries, or feeling overwhelmed? My name is Alyssa, and I'm a highly sensitive woman who spent years trying to fit in, ignoring my own needs, and living in constant fear of disappointing others. But I finally discovered the power of embracing who I am, and now I don't feel so broken. In this podcast, you'll learn to find your voice, set boundaries, and live with bold confidence and inner peace. Grab a cozy blanket. It's time to connect with someone just like you. In episode 30 of The Highly Sensitive Woman, I really want to talk about a topic that is so near and dear to my heart, and it is showing up authentically and what that looks like with regard to tears, because I think we all, deep down, we want to show up authentically, but it can be really, really scary because we've got this little voice in our heads wondering, like, what if I am misunderstood? What if I am seen as too much? What if the other person or people reject me? And for me, that concept really shows up whenever I feel the tears coming, because that fear of being misunderstood, I think, is really amplified in tears because for us highly sensitive women, all emotions come out in tears, right? Like whether we are sad or we are overwhelmed or feeling an immense amount of happiness or gratitude or we are angry, doesn't really matter. Like they all come out in tears, and that can be really, really vulnerable. And there are also times when I'm just embarrassed by it. And that still happens, even though I have kind of shifted my thoughts around it, and I recognize that those tears aren't actually a sign of weakness. They are a reflection of my humanity and how deeply I feel things and how important it is for me to show up in the moment. And people in my life have started to recognize that and started to appreciate that about me. And it can still sometimes be hard and sometimes still feel a little bit embarrassing. I was recently having a conversation with someone about my fragrance allergies. So to kind of give you a little backstory, I'm allergic to all fragrances. And as you can imagine, that can be pretty challenging for me by myself, but the reality is that affects the people closest to me in ways that I wish it didn't. Honestly, I wish that those who are in my inner circle did not have to adjust, and that I didn't have to ask them for things like that. But it is, a reality of my day-to-day life, and it has shifted certain relationships more than others. And I have actually been rejected because of it. And that is really, really hurtful. So bringing up my need for someone to adjust things because of my fragrance allergies is hard. I mean, really, really hard. And it is incredibly scary to ask for what I need. And almost every time that I am in a situation where I have to ask for it, the tears come. I can't stop them. They just come. So it kind of creates this twofold challenge. First, there's the issue of asking someone to avoid fragrances when they're around me, or, adjust what their day-to-day routine can look like, and to be thoughtful when they're getting ready and they know that we are going to be together. And then there's the second layer, which is the vulnerability that comes when the tears start to flow. And in those moments, my inner critic can get pretty loud at times. Is this person going to think that I am too emotional, that I'm too sensitive, that I am too much, in addition to the fragrances piece, right? Like, that's its own thing. But now that I've added this emotion to it, are they going to think that that is too much as well? So I have worked incredibly hard to reframe, and for myself, but it's also something that I share with my clients who experience this same thing where emotions come out of them in tears. And the reframe is, those tears do not make me too much. They do not make my clients too much. They do not make you too much. Those tears actually reflect how deeply we all care, how present we are in that relationship, and how much courage it takes to have the conversation in the first place. So today I want to give you 3 tips to help you feel safe when you are showing up in that very authentic, very vulnerable way. And even if it is a situation like what I experience, what my clients experience, when all of your emotions are spilling out through your eyes, still finding a way to stay true to who you are. So tip number 1 is to redefine what tears mean. So when I was sharing with this person about my fragrance allergies and the tears started coming, the other person admitted that for them, they almost only cry out of sadness. And that was just a reminder for me to keep in perspective how important it is to define the tears for both me and the other person, because that's their life experience, right? But for me, tears are my body's release valve for all kinds of emotions. So making sure that I am redefining that tears are not just sadness, and that they're not a bad thing either. When I stop fighting that natural wiring of the tears coming and instead embrace it, then I start creating a space to show up as the full, highly sensitive woman that I am. And the same is true for you, that when you redefine that those tears are a bad thing, then you can start to really embrace who you are. And the next step that comes with that is creating some inner safety first. Because that true authenticity and being able to redefine those tears is being safe with yourself. Because before you can feel safe to start showing up in front of other people, you have to feel safe with yourself. You are with yourself 24/7. And there is no escaping that inner conflict or inner critic. And so creating some safety with yourself first, so that no matter how the other person responds, you know that you are going to be okay. And that can be as simple as saying to yourself, it is okay for me to feel deeply. It is okay that tears show up while I am having this conversation. Maybe it is that you allow yourself to just put your hand over your heart and talk very gingerly, and providing that comfort that you really can't get from anywhere else. And maybe you will get to the point where you can do this in front of the other person. At first, this was something that I did in private or maybe even with my own coach as I was learning to grow in my comfort and level of self-acceptance when these tears were coming. But saying these very self-accepting phrases. It is okay to feel deeply. It is okay if the tears show up. You are safe here with me. You are safe to feel these very big emotions. Putting your hand on your heart, taking some deep breaths, really grounding yourself in your body. These are little reminders that signal to your nervous system that it's going to be okay. Even as you're feeling these really big emotions, even as the tears are coming, you have safety with yourself, and then you can work on having some safety with others, because even if the other person provides you safety, which happens actually pretty frequently, if you aren't safe with yourself and you are beating yourself up for having the tears, it doesn't really matter how the other person responds. And then tip number 3 does have to do with the other person, and that is communicating with them. So sometimes it is just really, really freeing to say something along the lines of, I cry when I feel deeply, and it doesn't always mean fill in some emotion. So, talking with this other person, for me, it was, I cry when I feel all emotions pretty deeply, and it doesn't always mean that I am sad. And naming whatever emotion, if I can, in that moment is really helpful for the other person. Sometimes, if the emotions are pretty big, it can be a little bit challenging to name it right then in the moment. But as you start doing it, it does get a little bit easier, and it gets easier to articulate it for the other person so that they know what emotion you are actually feeling. And it gives them an opportunity to respond with compassion instead of confusion, because they aren't trying to interpret what your tears mean through their lens of life experiences. This person that I was having a conversation with, if for them the only time that they ever cry is when they are feeling sad, then every time I cry, they're going to probably make an assumption that I am sad, and that is most definitely not the case. That's just a very small percentage, actually, of the time when tears come out of me. So more often than not, what happens is when you have this level of honesty with the other person and they can show up for you with compassion instead of confusion, it deepens the connection, and it tells the other person, this is who I am, and I am showing up fully without apology, and allows for both of you to really be yourselves. And honestly, that's what all of us want, whether we are highly sensitive women or we are the other 80% of the population. We all want to be able to be ourselves. And showing up authentically doesn't mean that you won't feel vulnerable. It actually is a pretty high level of vulnerability to do that. But what it means is that you are choosing courage over censoring yourself. And your tears are not proof of weakness. What they are proof of is that you are engaged and you are connected with yourself, and it creates an opportunity to connect with others. So the secret is not about learning how to stop crying. The secret is actually about creating safety within yourself so that you can show up fully, even if those emotions are kind of leaking out through your eyes. So learning how to redefine what tears mean and that they are not a bad thing at all. Creating some inner safety so that you know you're going to be okay even if those tears come. and then communicating with others the emotion behind those tears, what I have found, and I think you will find too, is that you have more control over the tears. You have more control over when they come. You have more control over the intensity of them. And you also have more control over how long they last in the moment. So as you are going through your week, I want you to start noticing where this might be showing up in your life and what part of you have you been hiding or making small because you're afraid that it will be too much and lead to tears. And the next time you feel those tears coming in the moment, could you allow them to come without apologizing? If you are noticing those tears coming up and would like help navigating the shift from censoring them and censoring yourself to a level of acceptance so you can show up more authentically, I would love to come alongside you on that journey. You can simply send me a message and we can schedule a time to chat about your needs and how I can help. Take care. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who may be feeling like she's broken too? I'd love it if you'd leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. It brings me so much joy to know this podcast is helping you. Now it's time for me to stop talking and go soothe my senses in nature. I'll meet you back here next week for another episode. Take care.